listening to the Tom Talks Baseball podcast on 710 AM and 97.5 FM KGNC. Podcasts are recorded during the week, and some information you may hear may be slightly outdated. Listen to this and other episodes as they happen anytime at KGNCNewsNow.com under the podcast section. Here are your hosts, Tom Young and David Lovejoy.
You're listening to the Tom Talks Baseball podcast on KGNCNewsNow.com and 1009theeagle.com. We're now joined by David Lovejoy. How you doing, sir?
All right. How you doing today, Tom?
Doing very well. And a special guest, a guy that we haven't talked to in quite some time on the podcast. You've probably seen him around HODGETOWN quite often. And one of the main guys that got this operation going, and we chatted with him a lot in the offseason, in the preseason. Tony Ensor, President and GM of the Amarillo Sod Poodles, is in studio today. Tony, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, guys. It's super nice to be in here. You know, we talked a lot during the preseason, and we've talked a lot at the ballpark, as you've been at the ballpark, of course. But great to come in here at the end of the regular season, just before we head into the playoffs. So it's perfect time.
Well, just kind of a general thought here. Season 1, not fully in the books yet, but the regular season has come to an end. Based on how things were when the season started, expectation-wise, how did this season go for you?
Well, yeah, people ask me that all the time. Are you happy the way things have gone, or is the ownership happy? And I tell everybody the same thing. I say, I had really high expectations come in because I know my operation, I know my staff. Like I told you guys early on, we brought the best of the best folks in from around the country to put this team together, as well as combine it with fantastic local folks. But I don't think any of us could have had hoped for the success that this team has had. It certainly exceeded all of our expectations, and it's really based on the community. It's the community has been the hero in all this sort of thing. I mean, we work hard, we put it together, and I tell people we built it, we brought the team here, we put the organization together, but now we're just caretakers now because the community has taken this team over, and that's really something cool to be a part of and cool to see.
Well, talking about the community, the attendance numbers, we were talking a bit about this before we cracked the mics open. 40 sellouts and 68 games this year, which is an incredible percentage of sellouts. Over 427,000. Is that?
Yeah, just a little over, almost 428,000 people over 68 dates, and in a market size that's 200,000 people. So that's incredible. I mean, we're competing against other market size, and I think I told you guys this before, but that 427,000 people, almost 428. Ranks us in the top 25 of all professional baseball. AAA, AA, Single A, High A, Low A, Rookie Ball, all of them. All the 160 teams across the country. Amarillo is in the top 25. I think we're around 22, 23. That's a testament to this community and what they wanted for Amarillo and how they supported this team.
Now, Tony, of course, some highlights and lowlights of the season. What was probably the greatest moment for you in this season, and what was one of those moments where you thought, what am I doing here?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had any of those what am I doing here moments. I really haven't. We had to deal some adversity on some rain early on in April and May. From a baseball perspective, that's adversity, but from the community's perspective, there were a lot of people thanking us for coming because we brought the rain with us. So there was no negatives to that, and it was we had to put up with the rain because rain and baseball don't mix because you play on a clay infield and sand. But I mean, if that's the worst thing you had to deal with all year, that's pretty incredible. But no, the highlights. There's just so many highlights. From the very beginning, the name reveal and how people have embraced that, how they embrace the team, to winning the best brand in all of baseball through the MLB Fox poll. And that's all the team, those 160 teams. The nation thought we had the best brand in the Sod Poodles.
We hadn't even played a game yet.
Yeah, I hadn't even played a game. That was really before first pitch.
Yeah.
And then winning the best AA ballpark in the country through a national poll. And then, probably the highlight is how we got into that first half championship. So we knew that if we won the first half, that would get us to the playoffs, and then anything can happen in the playoffs. So, I mean, in that, just getting to the playoffs in your first year, winning the best brand, the best stadium, now the playoffs coming, that's that's the icing on the cake, right? I mean, that's how you want to finish with a strong playoff run. And so just so many positives. And then obviously the community support and not just community support, but what I've had so many people tell me what this team means to them as an individual on a personal level, and so many great stories about that. That makes going to work every single day very special.
Well, you kind of tied into my next question a little bit. What's great about you, Tony, is we're out there watching the ball game, but you're out there with everybody. You're mingling with the fans. You're wanting to know how their experience is, maybe what they love about it, what you can possibly do better to make it a better experience for them. What are some of the best stories or some of the best comments you got from fans just walking around HODGETOWN during games this year?
This happened, probably the thing that has most been said is how proud Amarillo they are to have the ballpark here and have the team here. But I tell you, I probably hear this 3, 4, 5 times a game is you walk in there to the ballpark at HODGETOWN and they tell me it doesn't even feel like we're in Amarillo. That was when the lights first turned on. I had someone text me that shot a picture from on up high. I think they're at the Amarillo Club or one of those taller buildings. They said, it doesn't even look like we're in Amarillo. It looks like we're in a big city. And I think being a part of that development downtown, to see that growth is something we're very proud of. And I know it's going to be just continuing to be a very special place as it continues to grow downtown. And we're just excited to be a part of that.
Some great athletes we got a chance to see, Buddy Wells, Owen Miller, the young Mackenzie Gore came up and pitched. We've had the opportunity to get to interview some of these guys here on the podcast, and how do they feel about being in this city playing baseball in Amarillo?
Well, our players obviously love it. They go around the league all the time, and they don't see that kind of support. I tell people this all the time. There's been games, and you guys have seen them, and I know your fans listening here on the podcast will remember these games where we were 6, 7, 8 runs down. Mm-hmm. And I tell people this all the time. Players are trained to, look, it doesn't matter if there's 100 people in the stands or 10,000 people in the stands. You're a professional. You go to work. You do your thing. You get your hits. You get your pitches. Whatever your skill set is, you're expected to perform at that level. But, when you're down 6, 7, 8 runs and you're going in later innings, it's easy to say, well, we'll fold this one up and we'll continue to play hard, but we're not going to win this one, obviously. So let's move on to the next game because there's only 140. Yeah, you can stand to lose a couple in a 140 game season, but these fans don't allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. Our Amarillo Sod Poodle fans, they are there till the end. They don't leave until the 9th inning, and they have literally propelled and driven this team to so many comeback wins when we're 6, 7, 8 runs down, and that's just incredible to watch. I've never seen that anywhere in professional baseball, and I've been doing it for 30 years. But this community won't allow them to have a down moment. They keep picking them up. Doesn't matter if they strike out or they're having a bad pitching performance. We had a guy walk off the mound the other day, just gave up 3 or 4 runs, and he walked off to people standing and cheering for him. Mm-hmm. That's a special fan base, and that they've driven this team to success, and without the fan base, there's no way we're going to the playoffs.
Well, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite moments of the season. My parents, I'm from Illinois originally, and my parents still live there around the Champaign area, and they came to visit back in late July and took them to a ball game. And one of these games, we were down 7-0 at one point, 8-1. And there was this guy who was trying to start a Go Soddies chant the entire, 5th, 6th inning, wasn't having any luck with it. Amarillo came back and tied it up at 8, and Edward Olivares came up with 2 guys on base. And this guy tried one more time to start this chant, and finally it got some traction. And now you got the crowd going, "Let's go, Soddies." And the very next pitch, Olivares crushed one to left center field for a 3-run shot. And that is probably the loudest I have ever heard HODGETOWN. It was a goosebump-inducing moment, and just a lot of moments like that this season with the ball team.
Yeah, you think of Owen Miller's walk-off 3-run homer in the bottom of the 9th. You think of Buddy Reed's home run in the first series as we walked off. And then you think about Father's Day, the walk-off slide into home. That really, if we don't win that game, we don't win the playoffs.
Wow.
So there's just, again, the fans bring the best out of you guys. And I'll tell you a funny story because like I say, I know what this community means to our players and our coaching staff and our organization. But yesterday, I was downstairs just saying high-fiving our players in the clubhouse afterwards, talking to Welly and getting how excited we all are for the playoffs. But I walked out, and there were 3 or 4 Arkansas players. We played Arkansas in this last series, just ended yesterday. And I said, hey, good luck to you guys. Hopefully we'll see you in the playoffs, to these Arkansas players. And they, a couple of them stopped and said, hey, we just want to tell you, we love playing here. You guys do a great job. You put on a professional a game out here, and the fans are incredible. This is coming from the visiting players who tell us they love playing at HODGETOWN. So that's a testament to our fans, a testament to the organization and the building and everything else. And one other story that I think is one that you used to ask about highlights. This was a funny one. So in the first, I think it was the first homestand, we're playing, I think Midland came in the second series. And we play the Sod Poodle anthem for the first time.
Yeah.
and this guy had just heard it. And we probably had played that game. We had probably played it 2 or 3 times. And all of a sudden, the game is over. We won the game. We beat them pretty handily. And I see this Midland player walking off singing the Sod Poodle anthem.
Got it stuck.
It's you can't get it out of your head.
Wow.
So fun moments like that. It's just been super cool. This first season is been unbelievable. It's been a very special year, and I'll be honest with you, we're just getting started. This is our first year. Let's finish off. Let's get in the playoffs, win this thing, and then we'll start planning for a year or 2.
Yeah, Titletown, we'll call it. Some of the highlights, of course, were opening night, the 4th of July night. Father's Day was just a remarkable thing, letting the kids and the dads out on the field. We see you out at the stadium when we go out there, and we see you're mingling. And what is your typical day? Pull back the curtains a little bit. It's not like you just pull up at 4:45 to go to a game when it's game day. No. What time does your day start, and how long are you at the ballpark on a typical homestand?
Well, depending on the day of the week, but typically it's a 9 o'clock or 10 a.m. showtime for our staff. After a night before, if it's the first day, first day of the series, it's a 9 o'clock. But then after that, it's because we're there for about 14, 15 hours a day. If it's an 8-game homestand, you do the math. That's how long our full-time staff is there. So typically, we get there, we meet we have a game day meeting each day to go over, probably much like you do in the media business, to go over what's going on that particular game, because there are so many promotions, so many sponsors, so many different things that are happening and special events that are happening each day. So we go over those for about an hour in our game day meeting. Then it's about going through our business of the day, working on aspects of that day, and then planning for the next 4, 5, 6 coming up. And by the time we get through the day, it's about 5 o'clock. The gates are about to open. You're feeling a little bit fatigued and tired, but once that gate opens, that takes you to another gear. It gives you that extra juice to get going. The fans start to roll in. Then we put on our game day operation, and then usually about 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'll give the all clear for folks to head home. Sometimes midnight, depending on the game, and sometimes we have to put the tarp down that night because we've got a weather system coming over, and then we're back in at 8 a.m. the next day to pull that tarp off, because you can't have the tarp on too long when the sun's out. So, and then you repeat that. I mean, you rinse and repeat for all 70 home games that you have, and then you have off days when the team's on the road. We're doing a lot of events up in our club level and in the ballpark itself. So it really never stops. And that's not just me, that's my entire staff. They work really hard to put on, I tell people this, I want us to our goal is to put on a major league experience and just do it on a minor league scale. We have a smaller ballpark, but there's no reason why we can't put on a major league experience in that smaller ballpark, and that's what we strive to do every day. But, it's generally 13 to 15 hours a day for 8 days in a row, or however long the schedule is, and then I let them have a day off on the bookend. If the team's on the road, Team A is going to get off on Friday, Team B gets off on Monday, and then we just revolve that around. So try to keep everybody fresh, but you've got to be passionate about what you're doing to do the work that these guys do, and I couldn't be more proud of every one of them and the effort they put out.
Let's talk about the ballpark a little bit. Of course, that was a big focal point here in town the last few years. The vote passed barely to get the ballpark built down there. Then after we learned it was going to be an affiliated team, specifications were done to it to make it an even better experience. How has it held up the first year? It was built quickly. It got up there. How's it done for year one?
Well, it's as beautiful today as it was on the first day that we opened up on April 8th. It's an incredible ballpark. I have people in the industry that come visit us, general managers, league executives, major league executives, a lot of scouts. We have 2 or 3 scouts there every single day from different organizations. And every one of them tells me, said, what you guys have done here is incredible. The ballpark itself is, like we talked about early on, it's built for being social. Mm-hmm. So it really is that community gathering place where you can come and you sit and you're with your neighbors and you walk around the 360 walking track and you see other friends, people from church, people from your youth league or soccer or whatever it may be. And it's just a place where people gather, and it's such an inviting place. And so everyone that I talked to, Nolan Ryan was in a couple of weeks ago.
He just kind of snuck through, didn't he?
Nolan didn't. He didn't want to be all about it, and he just wanted to come and see the ballpark and get to experience it. And he came and he just said it was an incredible ballpark. We have Trevor Hoffman in. We've had Moises Alou in. Hideki Nomo's been in. All these great.
When did Nomo come? I missed that one.
Yeah,
too.
He was here for a little bit.
Wow.
He's actually working with our pitchers and things on the Sod and the Padres organization. But the ballpark itself has only gotten better. It's got a season under its belt now. I told some of our employees, our part-timers, even our fans, they're now veterans. Everybody that's associated with this, whether it was your first-time intern or you're a first-time fan of the team, in 2019, we're all veterans now because the regular season is over, and that makes everybody a veteran of one season, so including the ballpark. But the ballpark's fantastic. It's absolutely a beautiful place, and we couldn't be more pleased and proud to call it our home.
Well, one more question before we talk about what's happening tomorrow. Of course, a playoff series, the inaugural Sod Poodle playoff series. Going to kind of talk to the naysayers a little bit. This was an MPEV, a multi-purpose event venue. It's been mainly baseball this first year. I know Rome wasn't built in a day. But going forward, are we going to see more of the multi-purpose stuff with the stadium, or is it still going to mainly just be a baseball park?
Yeah, no. I mean, we're first off to the naysayers. I don't call them naysayers. I mean, what they were people that said, hey, look, we're concerned about this. Maybe there's been some things happen in the past where it hadn't turned out as good as what they had hoped, or that sort of thing. But these are people that they wanted you to prove something. We said a lot of things that we were going to do when we started this process a year and a half ago, 2 years ago for me. They wanted you to don't talk a good game, prove us a good game. So with the people that you say are called naysayers, or I just say concerned citizens, are people that are now fans of the team. They wanted us to prove what this ballpark could do for this community, what it could do for downtown Amarillo, and that this was something that the community was going to be proud of. And so I see a lot of those folks out at the ballpark, 428,000 people coming out this year. There's a lot of people that are now fans of the team that had concerns early on, and I'm very proud of that because you have to prove it. You just can't say you're going to do something. Now we've done it. And I think we've proven to the community what this team is all about. As far as the other events go, we've been doing a lot of events. We've had high school baseball games out there. We've had church Easter Sunday sunrise service out there. We've had multiple events up in our club area. Probably 20 plus events up in our club area. We've got more events planned for this fall. I think United Way is going to be out there with a big function. The Fellowship of Christian Athletes, we got another big function with them coming out. But there's so many different things that I wanted to do. I was trying to get a concert for this fall, and I've been working with some great promoters and some great folks to do it. This is, due to the fact that we've had 428,000 people out there. I mean, I'm not sure what else you want for more people coming. Yeah. But the fact that we're working on those, and I turned down a couple concerts that I didn't think were going to be big enough. But we've got a full slate that we're working on for next year, as well as some other big events, more high school games, more high school tournaments. I expect to do a minimum of 2 concerts next year. But again, I want that first one to be special. I didn't want it to just be anyone, and the groups that were brought to us, I didn't think were going to be the best way to start. I want that first one to be fantastic, to set the tone and to get us on the radar of all the folks that are doing concerts as they're passing through between Dallas and Denver and Route 66 and all over the country. So our plan is to do a lot of events out there. I mean, that only benefits the organization, and I think fans are going to see that.
Now, we turn and get ready for a playoff series against Midland this week. What are some of the keys to the Sod Poodles getting to that championship game through Midland?
Well, and I got to tell you, I'm so proud of our guys for getting there in the first place. It's been a struggle because we've had a lot of moves here in the last 2-3 weeks in our bullpen, and they have just held tight. I mean, some of these young guys coming up and just doing their very best to get us to this point, and our hitting has really come along. Yeah. So I'm really excited about the hitting. I think you'll see the official playoff roster hasn't come out yet. Won't come out till tomorrow, I think, officially. But I think you'll see some good things happening with the roster. Some guys that have been recently had been with the team most of the year, possibly coming back to help us out. The ones that have been recently gone up to the next level or so. I think you'll see a great roster coming up. And as far as every team goes through this, so it's not just the Sod Poodles. Every team that we're facing, Midland in the South Division, that's who we're going to be playing. And then over the North Division, just so people know how this works, we're trying to determine the champion of the South Division for the year. That's going to be us or Midland. And over in the North Division, they're doing the same thing. That's going to be between Tulsa and Arkansas. So once we finish, our first games here are tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Playoff game number 1, Wednesday. And so we'll go 2 games here, and then we'll finish with 3 games in Midland. So it's kind of a home field advantage for us because you really want to get out to a great start. And Wednesday and Thursday here with our crowd, bringing the ruckus and just going crazy in the ballpark. And then we go down to Midland for the final 3 games. It's a best of 5 series, so it could go to 4 games. But if the 5th game is necessary, that'll be there on Sunday in Midland, and that will determine the South Division champion. And then if we advance, we will be back here, guaranteed. If we advance past the divisional round, we'll be here on September 10th and 11th at home. And then the same thing will finish on the road in the championship series. But again, we got to take care of business first and win the South before anything else happens.
I want to thank Tony Ensor again for joining us on the Tom Talks Baseball podcast, Sod Poodle Spotlight. We haven't really had a chance to talk to him a whole lot during the course of the season, but we did quite a bit before the year got underway. Of course, the building of the ballpark taking place there in downtown Amarillo. We were getting weekly or bi-weekly updates with how that was going, how the organization was getting ready for the inaugural Sod Poodle season. And I think it's safe to say this first year has been a big success. We talked about it on previous podcasts. There was maybe that honeymoon period with it. How long is that going to last? We don't know. Lance Launer thinking maybe a few years. I think that's pretty safe to say. We'll see what happens after that. But definitely a lot of great young talent in the Padres organization helping out with that, as Amarillo did one heck of a job supporting this team in its first season. Now, while the first 2 home games in the postseason didn't go as planned with the on-the-field result, the crowd was once again amazing. The blue out on Wednesday night, the red out Thursday night. I was able to get out there Wednesday night for the blue out. Lots of blue, everybody waving those blue towels. And I wasn't there Thursday, but seeing pictures, the red out was just as successful. A lot of red out there. The red towels look sharp as well. Great job once again, Amarillo, supporting this team in the postseason. We'll see if we have another round of games, but that could have possibly been the last 2 games at HODGETOWN here in 2019. Now, we didn't do an actual podcast on Thursday like we have been for the last few months or so. Instead, we did a Facebook Live video where we kind of talked a little bit about the Sod Poodles' first playoff game and also had our final 2 winners in our Ranger Bobblehead Giveaway. Congratulations to Brian Moline and Christy Mahoney. Our final 2 winners of the Bobblehead Giveaway, we had some of those Texas Ranger top moments in Globe Life Park bobbleheads. Brian Moline reached out, and he is going to take a Josh Hamilton one. So, Christy, when we hear from you, you got the Michael Young bobblehead. Just reach out to us on our Facebook page, Tom Talks Baseball Podcast. Also, Twitter and Instagram at Tom Talks BBP. The bobbleheads are starting to land. Tony Woodby in Miami, Florida, received his the other day. Sent a wonderful picture. You can see that picture on all of our social media pages. Just want to let people know, if you are out of the area and you win these things, I am going to send it to you. It's a way of saying thank you for listening to our podcast. And so far, just about everybody that's won these bobbleheads has been out of state. We got a couple in Florida, one in Illinois, one in Arizona. Come on, Amarillo, you got to win these bobbleheads. And speaking of bobbleheads, Tony, who won the first Ranger bobblehead that we were giving away, sent us a couple of San Diego Padre bobbleheads that I am going to be giving away at a later date. I got a Trevor Hoffman Hall of Fame bobblehead, also a Ken Caminiti. So you want to stay tuned to our social media pages to see when we're going to be getting qualifiers for those 2 bobbleheads. And one final bit of news, you can now find our podcast on Spotify, which is very cool. Of course, you can find it on our social media pages and at KGNCNewsNow.com. Just look under the podcast section, find Tom Talks Baseball, and there you go. Also, you can find us on SoundCloud. That's where you can find the entire library of all of our shows dating back to when we started this thing back in March of last year. But we're now on Spotify. So if you're a fan of listening to podcasts on Spotify, we're a little easier to find. Just search Tom Talks Baseball Podcast. I got the latest show up there, the one that we did on Tuesday that had Tony Ensor on it, the one you just heard now. But going forward, you can find future episodes of the podcast there. And speaking of future episodes, been in touch with our friends at the Mad Friars. They're going to do an updated top 30 Padre prospect list once the season ends, and once they finish that, we're going to get somebody back on, talk about that list a little bit, see whose stock has maybe improved or got worse with their play in 2019. Stay tuned for that down the road, and I'll talk to you again next week on the Tom Talks Baseball podcast right here on KGNC.
Thanks for checking out this week's Tom Talks Baseball podcast on KGNC. To join the conversation and hear all episodes of the podcast as they happen, go to KGNCNewsNow.com and search under the podcast section. Like the Tom Talks Baseball podcast on Facebook and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Talks BBP. Thanks for listening, and we'll check in next week on the Tom Talks Baseball podcast.